Thanks for coming back, and welcome to the third vlog of the Navigator, the Norton Navigator rebuild. The last video we got the barrels off. This one really is going to be just trying to take the rest of the engine apart, showing you maybe how we measure the barrels and just where we're up to there. There's mainly images and pictures on this one. I took quite a few of them over the last sort of month, and recording this from home because we're in lockdown as well. I haven't really had a chance that much to be able to get up to the container over the last few weeks. I've been quite busy with other work, so I'm just going to do a little bit of a voiceover where the videos aren't, and take it from there. So this is another Norton Navigator which we ended up buying. A lot of parts on it that I needed: seat, rear shocks, handlebars, mud guards. Most of it's in good nick, but there's also another 2 engines and another 2 tanks, and the tank look is in pretty good nick as well. So most probably worth buying that, because some of the parts would have cost quite a bit. So back to the engine. This is where we were up to. As you can see, I was told it was a fully rebuilt bottom end. So you take the gudgeon pins out, there's a couple of circlips, mark your pistons so that you know which way they're facing. You have to take the gudgeon pins out outwards. There's no way you can do it any other way, with a punch going through the other piston to knock each one out. That's how you do it. You can push one piston over to one side. We need to measure the barrels to see how worn they are. These are bore gauges. You can buy them with a dial on top as well. This is just a cheap set, I should say. They're on springs and with a little locking nut on the top. So basically you drop it in vertically, move it about, get it so it's touching the barrels, lock it tight, make sure you've got the right, that it's actually rubbing on the side of the barrels, and then take it out and measure the actual width of the barrel, or the diameter of the barrel I should say. I'm only doing this roughly. The barrel's going to be going to an engineer to get honed and possibly rebored. It's just to see how worn they are. They weren't too bad. I might get away with just pistons rather than having to buy oversized pistons and rings. As I said, always make sure you mark the pistons so you know which way they came out and which barrel they've come out as well. And here's a picture of the bore gauges that you can buy from most decent motor factors or engineering company. And now over to me. I don't know whether you can see this, but I'll show you at the camera there. So the oil control ring, this is supposed to have been, there's that much stuff in there, it's just coke and everything, but the 2 piston rings themselves, that's the oil control ring, the 2 piston rings themselves are actually just wedged into they're not even moving, they're just not doing anything whatsoever. So I'm going to have to get them back out. I'm going to have to clean all the pistons up completely to try and make sure when the new set of rings go on. I'll do some measurements and stuff, and if I find that it's just not worth doing, then we'll just get another set of pistons for it. which you can buy from Norville. I don't think that there. But yeah, unbelievable. I know I'm saying unbelievable. It's only because he'd been told that it'd been rebuilt. If it was just, I'm just told now, I'm not going to say anything else about that. It's just an engine that's getting stripped and getting rebuilt. And that's it. Having a little bit of a rant there. Okay, so there's the puller to take the drive sprocket off the crank. Had to use a tie lever to go over the end, because that bolt will go into the other thread and damage it as you're trying to pull it off. You can use any type of plate. As I said, I used a tie lever. That's it, the whole thing comes off together. There's the key, don't lose the key that's next to the hammer there, you can see that. There's 4 or 5 Allen bolts which need to come off. As you can see some pictures there. There's 3 around the crankshaft. There's a couple at the back keeping it in place, and then your primary drive casing comes off, and that's what you're left with. As you can see, there's no shaft on the chain sprocket there. We've already taken the gearbox out. I was working a bit blind with this. The gearbox will go back in a different way, we'll show you that. But I took it out, just wanted to see whether there was a gearbox in there, because I didn't believe the guy after him saying he'd rebuilt it. Then we've got engine bolts to take off to split the crank, a couple at the front, there's a couple at the back there which you can see. Some of these are not easy to see, as you can see they're in recesses. Now while I'm heating up the crank, the bearing of the crank, just to help it, just thought I'd show you this. You can see the timing marks on the right hand side of the engine. You got your inlet cam, exhaust cam, idler, pump sprocket at the bottom. The 2 little dots on each side that line up, with also a dot at the bottom that will line up the crank at top dead centre. I haven't taken these off yet. I've taken the old pump sprocket off, as you can see there, but I haven't taken the cams off yet. Reason being, oh yeah, oil pump sprocket is left hand thread, not right hand thread. Please be aware of that. There's a little oil pipe which comes up, I think it's a breather pipe. That's just on a little nut. You can take that out. Then you end up coming up, see there's a little Allen bolt in there on the timing side. There's a few of these little bolts which you can't see, which are holding the casing together. There's another one down the bottom there. You need to take these apart, take these off, or you'll never split the crank. And there's those two holes that are in between the cylinder head bolts. There are another 2 that are actually holding the crank cases together. Hide mallet. It says to drop it on a piece of wood on the floor in the manual, but I think I'd be better off doing that. It took a bit, but it does come apart. Just take it steady, tap away, and eventually it comes off. You should leave the roller bearing on, and the outer part of the bearing will be in your casing. That rod sticking out on the right hand side of the casing is the selector forks sit on in the gearbox. The gearbox will be going back in on that side when we actually put it back together. As you can see, that is one half of the casing off. There is a little video coming up now, because in the cams there are little springs on the ends which sit into the recess of the other half of the casing. Don't lose those. So I took the left hand conrod off because I wanted to see what the shells were like, because as you said, we've been told this had been rebuilt, and as you can see, the shells are mashed. So I'm going to have to take the other side off as well, unfortunately. So to undo the nuts on the inlet and the exhaust cam, they're both right hand thread, so you can actually hold one of the nuts with a socket and undo the other one. The other way would be to use some form of tool to unlock the idler sprocket. Anyway, I just undid that. The exhaust cam was a lot easier to get off than the inlet cam. Once you've got one off, you do need to be able to hold the other cam to be able to undo the nut, because you've got no way of holding it in place. Also, these are keyed onto the camshafts. You might find it difficult to get the actual sprockets off. However, because we've already taken the other side of the casing off, once the nuts are off, you can just basically with a hide mallet tap the cams into out to the other side of the shaft. Once you get the shaft out, don't forget there are keys that hold the sprocket in a particular place. So on the left hand side is the inlet cam, on the right hand side is the exhaust cam. I've just put the sprockets back on and the nuts so that we know where they are. It looks a bit of a mess on those pictures, but I didn't have a lot of room. I just wanted to show you the two cams once they were out, and the other sprocket on the right hand side is the idler. So we took off the nut earlier on, the sprocket for the oil pump, and you can see the key in that picture. So there's no way, you can't just knock the crankshaft out of the casing because that key will not let it go. You have got a little bit of room at the back of that sprocket. I think hence the reason why that washer is that particular shape, so you can get some form of something behind there. What I actually did was I actually tapped the crankshaft from the other side just to create a little bit of space behind that sprocket, so you could put something very thin in and start working your way, working that sprocket off. It is quite tight. It's not threaded, it's just on a key. Little bit of heat and or a very, very small sort of sprocket or bearing puller that you might be able to get a couple of claws behind to pull it off. As you can see there, that's the key. The arrow is there. That's the key where that sprocket is. This was once the crank was out. So you can see that key. There's no way you're going to be able to knock the crank on into the casing It's just to give you an idea what it looks like once it was out. I will reiterate, you have to take the key and the sprocket off the crankshaft before you can tap the crankshaft out of, with a hide mallet, out of the casing. Okay, then I had to take the other conrod off. Very simple, two nuts. Make sure you take the washers off with them. But when you tap the bolts up to take the top half of the conrod off, you have to do it evenly, because it just won't. If you try to just tap one side, it'll just lock up. It's a very, very tight fit. Very tight fit. So just make sure you tap the bolts once on the bottom end of the conrod. And then these are the time inside camshaft bushes. As you can see, there's a little bearing tapper there. They have to come out onto the inside of the casing, because there's a lip, and as you can see, that's what you do to tap them out. There's a little oil ring on the left-hand casing. Right, okay, so the left-hand casing has got another 2 cam bushes, and you've got the outer race of the roller bearing on that side, which, as you can see, are really, really difficult to try and get out. This is something I'm going to most probably do a different video for, because it's not easy. There's no way you can actually knock them out from the other side, especially the cam bushes. If you look at them, they're just a circular bush that's sat into play. I might have to, I have tried already freezing them, tapping them out. They're not moving. I'm going to have to think of a different way of doing those. They need replacing, so it's not too bad if I damage them, because I do need to replace them. The same with the main bearing, which is a little bit lower down there, as I showed you earlier. Thought I'd drop in a couple of diagrams as well. This is the bottom half of the engine. I've taken these out of a spares catalogue, which I've actually got offline, downloaded on a PDF. So there's no copyright there, I wouldn't have thought. The numbers and everything are actually all labelled in the actual PDF. If anyone wants the PDF file, just DM me directly with an email address, and I'll send it to you. There's 30 odd pages. That's the top end, as again with all the numbers. And as you can see, that's the spare parts list. It says Jubilee 1959, but it's the Navigator one as well. Most of the parts are similar. You know, I got it more so that I could actually, the numbers will tell me what each item is. So I've got an idea of if there's anything missing as I'm putting it back together, which always helps. And that's about it, really. If you need any more information off me about that, then to do with this, anytime you can just message me, and I'll try and help as much as I can. Hope you got some good information from all that video, and be safe, ride safe, and hopefully we'll be out the lockdown in a couple of weeks.